Elderly veteran bought a Millionaire storage unit. What he found inside was shocking. The padlock gave way with a sound like a bone breaking, and Carter Wallace felt his knees buckle as the metal door rolled upward into blinding afternoon light. 72 years old, hands still shaking from the war that never left him, had scraped together his last $847 at the auction, everything he had left after the VA check cleared and the motel took their cut. The auctioneer had called this unit 447, belonged to some tech millionaire, went dark 18 months ago, contents unknown. But as fluorescent tubes flickered to life inside and Carter's eyes adjusted to what lay before him, he understood that some things were worth far more than money, and some discoveries could crack a man's heart wide open. There, in the center of the concrete floor, sat a hospital bed. Not stored, not folded, assembled, made up with sheets still tucked at the corners, a stuffed elephant perched on the pillow. And beside it, stacked floor to ceiling, were boxes labeled in careful handwriting. Emma, age 4. Emma, first day kindergarten. Emma, last Christmas. Wait, before you see what's inside, if this story already has your heart pounding, tell us where you're watching from. When forgotten boxes open, when second chances hide under dust and debt, subscribe and stay close. You'll never guess what's been left behind. Now, back to the lock clicking open. Carter stepped inside, his work boots crunching on something. He looked down. Photographs. Hundreds of them, scattered like autumn leaves across the concrete. A little girl with blonde curls blowing birthday candles. The same girl, older, maybe 7, on a hospital bed identical to the one in front of him, smiling despite the tubes in her arms. A man in an expensive suit kneeling beside her, his hand on her small shoulder, his eyes red-rimmed and hollow. The air in the unit was stale, untouched. Carter's breath came shallow. He'd been to storage auctions before, 12 of them in the past 4 months, since the apartment fell through and the truck became home. He'd learned to spot the units worth bidding on, tools, furniture, anything he could flip for grocery money. But this was different. He picked up one of the photos. The girl couldn't have been more than 9. She wore a Wonder Woman costume, cape and all, her thin arms raised in victory. Someone had written on the back in blue ink, "Emma's Brave Day, Round 4 Chemo, March 2019. Carter's throat tightened. He knew that kind of brave. He'd seen it in Kandahar, in the eyes of a young corporal who'd stepped on an IED and asked Carter to tell his daughter he loved her while they waited for the medevac. He'd seen it in his own mirror, every morning he woke up and decided to keep going, despite the nightmares, despite the pills that didn't work, despite the fact that some days breathing felt like lifting concrete. The hospital bed's rails were decorated with stickers, unicorns, rainbows, stars. A child had spent time there, a lot of time. Carter moved deeper into the unit, his shadow stretching across boxes stacked with geometric precision. Everything was labeled, dated, organized with the desperate care of someone trying to hold on to every moment before it slipped away. Emma, medical records, 2018-2020. Emma, artwork collection. Emma, videos, birthday messages. Carter's hands trembled as he opened the artwork box. Inside were drawings on construction paper, finger paintings, watercolors of houses and families and dogs. Each one was sleeved in plastic, protected, preserved. A pink crayon self-portrait showed a stick figure girl with a big smile and no hair. The caption read, "Me being strong, age 8. He sat down hard on the concrete floor, his bad knee screaming. The auctioneer's words echoed back. Tech millionaire, went dark, 18 months ago. Not abandoned, not forgotten. Something had happened. Something that made a man walk away from his daughter's entire world sealed in a storage unit. Carter pulled his phone from his jacket pocket, a flip phone, 6 years old, but it worked. He thought about calling the facility manager, asking questions, but he already knew the questions didn't matter. What mattered was the bed, the boxes, the evidence of a little girl's life carefully archived by someone who couldn't bear to let her go. His own daughter's face flashed through his mind. Marcy, 34 now, lived in Oregon with her family, hadn't spoken to him in 6 years. Not since he'd shown up drunk to her son's baptism and caused a scene. Not since she'd said, "Dad, I can't keep watching you destroy yourself. Get help or stay away." He'd chosen wrong. He'd chosen the bottle, the anger, the pride. And now he was 72 years old, sleeping in a Ford Ranger, buying storage units with his last dollars, hoping for a miracle that would never come. But this girl, Emma, someone had loved her enough to save everything. Carter stood, his knees popping. He moved to the next row of boxes. These were different, adult-sized, expensive. Louis Vuitton luggage, leather briefcases, boxes labeled office files and awards and press. He unzipped one of the suitcases. Inside were men's clothes, still on hangers, price tags attached. Tom Ford, Armani, clothes that had never been worn, purchased and packed away. Another suitcase held shoes, size 11, still in boxes. Another contained watches, jewelry, cufflinks in velvet cases. It was like stumbling into a museum exhibit, the life of a man who stopped living. Carter found a briefcase and popped the latches. Inside were documents, business papers, and a leather portfolio. He opened the portfolio. News clippings, printed articles, magazine covers, all featuring the same man from the photographs, older now, but unmistakable. The headlines told the story. Tech entrepreneur David Chen sells company for $340 million. Chen Technologies acquired by Silicon Valley giant. Millionaire developer builds hospital wing in daughter's name. And then smaller articles tucked in the back. Chen charged with embezzlement following company audit. Former tech CEO faces federal investigation. David Chen pleads guilty, sentenced to 15 years. Carter sat back. The pieces assembled themselves like a puzzle he hadn't asked to solve. David Chen, millionaire, father, criminal, a man who'd built an empire and lost everything. A man who'd stored his daughter's memory in a 10 by 20 space and then disappeared into the federal prison system. But where was Emma? Carter's hands shook as he opened another box, this one labeled Emma, Final Year. Inside were more medical documents, hospital bracelets, cards from doctors and nurses. And beneath those, a funeral program. Pink and white, decorated with butterflies. Emma Grace Chen, 2011-2020. Forever our brave warrior. The date on the program was February 2020. She'd been 9 years old. Carter pressed his palms against his eyes. The storage unit suddenly felt too small, the air too thin. A father had lost his daughter. Then he'd lost everything else. His company, his freedom, his life. And before they took him away, he'd put her whole existence into boxes, rented this space, and walked into prison knowing that somewhere his little girl's memory was safe. Except now it wasn't. Now it belonged to a broke veteran who'd bought it for $847 because he thought he might find something to sell. Carter's chest ached. He thought of Marcy again, of his grandson whose name he could barely remember. Owen? Ethan? The shame burned like acid. He'd had everything, a daughter who loved him, a family, a chance, and he traded it for nothing, for pride and pain and the bottom of a bottle. David Chen had lost his daughter to cancer. Carter had lost his to his own weakness. The sun was setting outside, golden light streaming through the gap beneath the storage unit door. Carter knew he should leave, should lock up, should figure out what to do. The facility would want payment in 30 days. He didn't have 30 days of money. He barely had 30 days of hope. But he couldn't leave, not yet. He opened the box labeled Emma Videos. Inside was a laptop, silver and expensive, and a dozen external hard drives, each labeled with dates. Carter's hands hesitated. This felt like trespassing, like opening a grave. But something pulled him forward, the same instinct that had kept him alive in Afghanistan, the same voice that occasionally whispered that maybe, just maybe, he was meant to find this. He opened the laptop. It was charged, ready, as if David Chen had prepared it for this exact moment. The desktop background was a photo of Emma in a hospital bed, giving 2 thumbs up, her smile so bright it seemed impossible that she was sick. Carter clicked on a folder labeled For Emma When She's Older. His stomach dropped. These weren't for Emma. Emma was gone. These were for after, for whoever came next. The first video file was labeled Start Here. Carter's finger hovered over the trackpad. Then he clicked. David Chen's face filled the screen. He was sitting in what looked like an expensive home office, but his eyes were sunken, his face gaunt. The date stamp read September 2020. "If you're watching this," Chen said, his voice hoarse, "then I'm gone, and Emma's things have been found. I don't know who you are. Maybe you're a buyer at auction. Maybe you're facility staff. Maybe you're just someone looking for treasure." He laughed, a broken sound. "The truth is, everything valuable in this unit isn't worth money. It's worth a life. My daughter's life." Chen looked down, gathering himself. When he looked back up, tears streaked his face. "I need to tell you something. I need someone to know. Emma died in February, and I went insane. Not slowly. I couldn't work, couldn't think, couldn't breathe. My company was already crumbling. I'd made bad decisions, illegal decisions, trying to fund experimental treatments for her cancer. I borrowed money I shouldn't have borrowed. I moved money I shouldn't have moved. And when the auditors came, I couldn't even defend myself. I didn't care anymore. Without Emma, nothing mattered."
Carter's throat constricted. He understood that feeling. He'd had it the day Marcy hung up and didn't call back.
"They gave me 15 years, Chen continued, and before I reported, I had 1 week. 1 week to close my life. I sold everything I could, set up trusts, handled legalities. And then I rented this unit. I brought Emma's hospital bed, all her things, everything I couldn't bear to throw away. I spent 3 days setting it up exactly like her room, like she was still here, like I could visit her."
Chen wiped his eyes with the back of his hand.
"I made a choice, a stupid, selfish choice. I didn't tell anyone about this unit, not my lawyer, not my family. I just paid 5 years in advance and walked away. Because I couldn't let anyone sort through her things like they were garage sale items. I couldn't let strangers decide what mattered. So I locked it all away, like a tomb. Like if I preserved it perfectly, some part of her would stay alive."
He paused, staring directly into the camera.
"But here's the thing I realized too late. Emma wouldn't want this. She wouldn't want her life locked in darkness. She was brave and bright, and she believed in hope even when there wasn't any. The last thing she said to me was, 'Daddy, don't be sad forever. Promise?' And I promised, but I lied."
Chen's voice broke.
"So, if you're watching this, I'm asking you something. Don't throw these things away, but don't keep them locked up either. Inside these boxes is Emma's art, her stories, her voice. She wanted to be a teacher someday. She wanted to help kids who were scared. There are birthday messages she recorded for me for every year until she would have turned 25. There are letters she wrote to her future self. There's a journal where she wrote about her dreams." He leaned closer to the camera. "Find someone who needs hope. Find a children's hospital, a cancer ward, a family going through what we went through. Give them Emma's words. Show them her art. Let her bravery live on. That's the treasure. That's what matters. Not the watches or the suits or the money. Emma's light. Pass it on. The video ended. The screen went black. Carter sat in the silence of the storage unit, tears streaming down his face, his body shaking with sobs he'd held back for years. He'd come here desperate, hoping to find something to sell so he could eat next week. Instead, he'd found a mission, a purpose, the first real thing that mattered since he'd lost everything that mattered. But he was nobody, a broke veteran with PTSD and nowhere to sleep. What could he possibly do with this responsibility? His phone buzzed. A text from the VA clinic. "Carter, you missed your appointment today. This is your third missed session. Please call to reschedule or we'll have to close your file." He stared at the message. 3 missed appointments. 3 chances to get help, thrown away. Just like he'd thrown away his relationship with Marcy, his chance at stability, his dignity. Emma's voice echoed in his mind. "Don't be sad forever." Carter looked around the storage unit, at the hospital bed with its unicorn stickers, at the boxes of carefully preserved memories, at the evidence of a father's love and a daughter's courage. David Chen had made terrible choices. He'd broken laws, hurt people, lost everything. But in the end, he tried to do one good thing. He tried to make sure Emma's light didn't go out. Carter could do the same. Maybe not perfectly, maybe not smoothly, but he could try. He closed the laptop and stood. His plan formed slowly, like dawn breaking after a long night. First, he needed to secure the unit, keep paying the fees somehow. Second, he needed to go through everything, carefully, document it, understand what was here. Third, he needed to find the right place, the right people to receive Emma's legacy. But before all that, he needed to make one call. His hands shook as he dialed. The phone rang 4 times. He almost hung up. "Hello?" Marcy's voice, cautious, suspicious. "Marcy, it's Dad." Silence. "I know you don't want to hear from me. I know I don't deserve your time, but I need to tell you something." He took a breath. "I bought a storage unit today, and I found something that changed everything. I found a reason to stop being sad forever." "Dad, are you drunk?" "No, I'm sober. 63 days sober. I didn't tell you because I didn't think it would last. But today, I found something that made me understand. I have to make it last. Not for me, for someone who can't make it last themselves." He heard her breathe, heard the uncertainty. "What did you find?" Carter looked at Emma's hospital bed, at the photographs scattered on the floor, at the evidence of a little girl's enormous courage. "I found a daughter's love for her father, and a father's love for his daughter, and I realized I've been throwing that away. I'm done, Marcy. I'm done running. I need your help. I need to do something good. And I need to start by saying I'm sorry. For everything. For all of it." The silence stretched so long he thought she'd hung up. Then, "Where are you, Dad?" Carter gave her the address of the storage facility. She said she'd call him back. She didn't promise anything, but she didn't hang up angry, and that was more than he deserved. He spent the next hour carefully going through the boxes, making notes on his phone. Emma's medical records showed treatments at St. Christopher's Children's Hospital, about 40 miles away. Her artwork filled 3 large boxes, drawings, paintings, collages, enough to fill a gallery. The videos on the hard drives included birthday messages, bedtime stories Shed recorded for her father, and something labeled Emma's Hope Project, a series of videos Shed made for other kids with cancer, offering advice, encouragement, and jokes. Carter watched one. Emma, bald and thin, sitting up in bed, speaking directly to the camera. "Hey, cancer buddy, I know you're scared. I'm scared too. But here's the secret. Being brave doesn't mean you're not scared. It means you're scared and you do it anyway. You get up, you fight, you find something to smile about. Maybe it's ice cream. Maybe it's your dog. Maybe it's just knowing that somewhere another kid is watching this and feeling less alone. We're warriors, you and me. We've got this. The video ended with Emma blowing a kiss to the camera. Carter wiped his eyes. This was it. This was the treasure David Chen had left behind. Not the expensive suits or watches. This. A 9-year-old girl's determination to turn her suffering into someone else's hope. His phone rang. Marcy. Dad, I talked to James, her husband. Carter had met him twice, both times drunk. We want to help, but I need you to be honest with me. Are you really sober, or is this another false start? I'm really sober, and I'm really trying. I won't lie to you, Marcy. I'm scared I'll fail. I'm scared every day. But I found something bigger than my fear. I found a little girl who was braver than I'll ever be, and she left a message that someone needs to hear. I want to make sure it gets heard. What do you need? I need help going through everything in this unit. I need to find the right place to donate her things, and I need to stay sober while I do it. Can you help me? Another pause. Then, I'll be there tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock. Don't make me regret this. I won't, I promise. After they hung up, Carter sat in the storage unit until the facility lights clicked off and darkness swallowed the space. He thought about David Chen in a federal prison somewhere, serving year 5 of 15. Did he know his storage unit had been auctioned off? Did he wonder what had happened to Emma's things? Or had he made peace with letting go? Carter decided he would write to him, find out which facility, send a letter. Tell him that Emma's message had been found and it would be shared, that a broken veteran had been given a second chance because a little girl believed in hope. It wasn't much, but it was a start. The next morning, Carter arrived at the storage facility before dawn. He'd slept in his truck, parked in the lot, guarding Unit 447 like a soldier guarding sacred ground. When Marcy pulled up at 10 o'clock, he was waiting by the door, sober, awake, ready. She stepped out of her car slowly, studying him. She looked older than he remembered, tired. A mother of 2, working full-time, carrying the weight of a family. She'd gotten that from him, the weight carrying. But she'd also gotten something he'd lost, the strength to keep going. Hi, Dad. Hi, sweetheart. They stood there awkwardly, a gulf of 6 years between them. Then she nodded at the storage unit. Show me. Carter rolled up the door. Morning light flooded the space, illuminating Emma's hospital bed, the boxes, the photographs still scattered on the floor. Marcy gasped. Oh my God, whose is this? A little girl named Emma. She died of cancer 5 years ago. Her father preserved everything. Then he went to prison. The unit got auctioned off. I bought it. He turned to her. I didn't know what was inside, but now that I do, I can't walk away. She deserves better than being locked in darkness. Marcy stepped inside, picking up one of the photographs. Emma in her Wonder Woman costume. She read the back and looked up at Carter, tears in her eyes. What do you want to do? I want to find the hospital where she was treated. I want to donate her artwork, her videos, her messages. I want other kids fighting cancer to know they're not alone. That's what she wanted. That's what her father wanted. And that's what I'm going to do. Marcy studied him for a long moment. Then she set down her purse and rolled up her sleeves. Okay, let's get to work. They spent 6 hours sorting through boxes, cataloging contents, watching videos. Marcy cried through Emma's birthday messages. Carter documented every piece of artwork, every medical record, every treasure hidden in the unit. By the time the sun began to set, they had a plan. St. Christopher's Children's Hospital had a cancer ward named after Emma. The Chen family had donated millions before David's legal troubles. Marcy called the hospital's community outreach coordinator and explained the situation. The woman nearly wept on the phone. They'd lost Emma 5 years ago, and the ward still remembered her. The staff would be honored to receive her artwork, her videos, her messages to other patients. But there was more. The expensive items, the watches, the suits, the luxury goods, those could be sold. The money could fund art therapy programs, music therapy, comfort items for families staying at the hospital. David Chen's wealth, locked away and forgotten, could become Emma's living legacy. Carter and Marcy worked for 3 weeks, meeting at the storage unit every evening after Marcy got off work. They cleaned, organized, preserved. They digitized every video, scanned every drawing, documented every message. Carter called his VA counselor and started attending sessions again. He told her about Emma, about the mission, about the first time in years he felt like his life had purpose. The counselor asked him why this mattered so much. "Because I lost my daughter by being selfish," Carter said, "and I found another daughter who lost everything by being selfless." I can't bring Emma back. I can't undo what I did to Marcy. But I can make sure Emma's voice reaches the kids who need it. That's something. That's enough. On a Saturday morning in late November, Carter and Marcy loaded a rental truck with boxes and drove to St. Christopher's Children's Hospital. The staff met them in the parking lot, nurses, doctors, child life specialists, all of whom had known Emma. They carried the boxes inside like pallbearers, reverent and careful. The hospital's family lounge had been renamed the Emma Grace Chen Hope Room. It was there that they set up the display. Emma's artwork on the walls, a video station where kids could watch her messages, a bookshelf filled with her favorite stories. In the center of the room, on a plaque, were Emma's words. "Being brave doesn't mean you're not scared. It means you're scared, and you do it anyway." The hospital's director shook Carter's hand, tears streaming down her face. "You have no idea what this means. Emma was special. She touched everyone here. And after her father's legal troubles, after everything fell apart, we thought we'd lost her. But you brought her back. You brought her light back." Carter's voice was thick. "It wasn't me. It was her. She's the brave one." That evening, after everything was set up and the hospital staff had thanked them a dozen times, Carter and Marcy sat in the parking lot, exhausted and quiet. The sky was purple dark, stars beginning to emerge. "Dad," Marcy said softly, "I'm proud of you." Carter looked at her, stunned. "You are? You found something good in all your pain. You turned it into something that matters. That's brave too." "I don't feel brave. I feel like I'm barely holding on." "Then you're just like Emma. Scared, but doing it anyway." She reached over and squeezed his hand. "Keep going, Dad. One day at a time." Carter squeezed back. "Can I meet them? Owen and Lily? His grandchildren." He'd gotten the names wrong before. But Marcy had corrected him gently, patiently, as many times as it took. "Yes, Thanksgiving. Come to dinner. But Dad, if you drink, if you show up drunk or high or not yourself, you're done. I can't do this again." "I know. I won't. I promise." This time, it was a promise he intended to keep. The money from selling David Chen's luxury items raised $47,000. The hospital used it to create the Emma Grace Chen Art Therapy Fund, providing materials, classes, and support for pediatric cancer patients. Carter set up a small website sharing Emma's videos and artwork, her messages of hope. Within 6 months, it had been viewed by thousands of families around the world. Parents wrote to Carter thanking him. Kids sent drawings inspired by Emma's bravery. And Carter kept going. He found a small apartment, got a part-time job at a veterans center, attended his counseling sessions every week. He went to Thanksgiving dinner at Marcy's house, sober and present, and met his grandchildren properly for the first time. Owen was 7, quiet and thoughtful. Lily was 4, full of questions and laughter. They didn't know him yet, but they would. In December, Carter received a letter. It was postmarked from a federal correctional institution in California. The return address listed David Chen. Carter opened it carefully. "Mr. Wallace, the hospital contacted me. They told me what you did. They told me Emma's artwork is on the walls, Her videos are helping kids. Her light is shining again. I don't have words for what that means. When I set up that storage unit, I was drowning. I couldn't let her go, but I couldn't hold on either. I locked her away like a coward, hoping someday I'd be free to visit. But you did what I couldn't. You set her free. I made terrible choices. I hurt people. I deserve to be here. But knowing that Emma's voice is reaching kids who need hope, that's redemption I didn't think I'd ever find. Thank you. You gave my daughter back to the world. You gave me peace. I have 10 years left. When I get out, I'd like to meet you, if you're willing. Gratefully, David Chen. Carter read the letter 3 times. Then he sat down and wrote back. He told David about the hospital, about the families, about the little boy who watched Emma's videos before every chemo session and said she made him feel brave. He told David that he understood how it felt to lose everything and how sometimes the only way forward was through someone else's light. He told him about Marcy, about Owen and Lily, about the second chances we don't deserve but sometimes receive anyway. And he ended with Emma's words, "Don't be sad forever." On a Sunday morning in January, Carter drove back to the storage facility for the last time. Unit 447 was empty now, the hospital bed donated, the boxes distributed, the photographs and treasures given to the people who needed them most. The concrete floor was bare, swept clean, ready for the next person's forgotten things. Carter stood in the doorway, looking at the empty space. 6 months ago, he'd broken the lock on this unit expecting to find junk to sell. Instead, he'd found a little girl's courage, a father's love, and his own path back to being human. He thought of Emma's hospital bed, now in the Hope Room, covered in notes and drawings from kids who'd found comfort there. He thought of her videos, watched by families around the world. He thought of David Chen, serving his time, carrying the knowledge that his daughter's light hadn't been extinguished. And he thought of himself, 72 years old, sober, healing, connected to his daughter and grandchildren again. Not because he'd found treasure, but because he'd recognized it. Because he'd chosen to do the right thing even when it was hard. Carter pulled the unit door closed. The metal rattled down with a final echoing clang. He locked it, turned in the key to the facility office, and walked back to his truck. The morning was cold and bright. Frost sparkled on the asphalt. Somewhere in Oregon, Marcy was making breakfast for her family. Somewhere in California, David Chen was reading his letter. Somewhere in a hospital, a scared child was watching Emma's video and finding the courage to be brave. Carter climbed into his truck, started the engine, and pulled out of the parking lot. He didn't look back. He didn't need to. Some things weren't meant to be locked away in darkness. Some lights were meant to shine. And some discoveries changed everything. He drove toward home, toward family, toward the life he'd almost thrown away. The sun rose over the buildings, turning the world gold. In his pocket, his phone buzzed, a text from Marcy. "Owen wants to know if you'll come to his soccer game next week." Carter smiled, his eyes wet. He typed back, "I'll be there." And he would be. Not because he was fixed or healed or whole, but because Emma had taught him that being brave meant showing up even when you were scared, meant choosing hope even when darkness seemed easier, meant believing that second chances weren't just for the deserving, they were for anyone willing to try. The storage unit was empty now, but Carter Wallace was full of purpose, full of connection, full of the kind of treasure that couldn't be measured or sold or locked away, the kind that only grew when you gave it away. He drove on, into the morning, into the future, into the life Emma's courage had helped him reclaim. And somewhere in the light, he could almost hear a little girl's voice whispering, "We've got this."